Hello, everybody. Greetings and a very warm welcome to this special screening event. My name's Gemma Parks. I'm the head of communications of the Nature Positive Initiative. And I heard last night that there are apparently more than 1,400 different sessions during London Climate Action Week this week. So thank you very much for choosing this to be one of yours that you attend. And we're going to make sure we make it worth your while. In just a moment, we're going to watch our short film, Becoming Nature Positive, and then I will be joined on stage by this fantastic panel, Jane Madgwick, Thomas Viegas, and Marco Lambertini. But more about this brilliant group in just a little while. I just want to say a very brief word about the film Becoming Nature Positive. It's inspired by the book, which was published last year of the same name, Becoming Nature Positive, Transitioning to a Safe and Just Future. A multi-author book really about the whole journey of Nature Positive, what it means, how we get there, and how every aspect of society can play a role. So we thought the book is great, but we would like to reach wider audiences in a different way. And so we created this film, which was premiered in January at Climate Hub Davos. And I'm excited to say we have already received these laurels. We've been nominated for various presentations at different film festivals. So far we have 9 of those. So that's a really nice little accolade to say that it's touching audiences already in different ways. And we've had various screenings that have happened so far. So I won't say much more about that, really. We've got some time afterwards to really exchange, and we look forward to hearing any thoughts and questions that you may have as well. So please think about those while you're watching the film. But for now, without further ado, let's play the film.
Always wanted to do that.
Is that still okay?
Thank you. Perfect.
I feel like a movie maker now. So in 3 words, why we need to embrace nature positive future: equity, resilience, and human prosperity.
Security, resilience, inspiration. So life, love, and everything.
No other alternative.
We need nature.
We are nature.
Well, I can do it in 2. It's to win.
The world stands at a crossroads. One that decides the future of humanity and all life on Earth. We are destroying nature faster than at any other time in our history. And the effects on humanity are profound.
We have to recognize that every breath of air we take, every mouthful of food that we take, comes from the natural world. It's the essential ingredient of human life.
Humanity has become a weapon of mass extinction. We are treating nature like a toilet, and ultimately, we are committing suicide by proxy.
Can we build a better future where both nature and humanity thrive? It began with a bold vision. In 2015, the Paris Climate Agreement provided humanity with a framework for decisive action in the face of rising climate emergency.
Paris pour le climat est accepté.
This confidence inspired the global community to pursue an equally ambitious goal. One that focused on halting the catastrophic loss of nature and driving its recovery. In 2022, the world agreed to the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, defining the path for nations to unite under a shared ambition. To halt and reverse biodiversity loss by 2030. The Nature Positive ambition was born.
As we work towards a zero carbon future, we must work equally towards being nature positive.
Nature positive is not a slogan. It is a measurable goal for nature to drive action across society, to halt and reverse biodiversity loss for the benefit of all life on Earth, including ourselves.
The global human population is still expanding. Around the world, people need to fish, farm, extract resources, and develop infrastructure. But almost everywhere, this is still done unsustainably and destructively. The demands we place on the natural world will never go away completely. But we can drastically reduce our impacts, promote nature's recovery, and create a better world for all of us.
So the Nature Positive goal is all about making sure that there is more nature tomorrow than there is today.
This united global goal is critical because we are losing nature at an alarming rate. How have we reached this point? Over the last 200 years, we have lived through unprecedented scientific and technological advances. Improvements in food production, medicine, sanitation, and technology have brought great economic and social benefits, leading to a dramatic improvement in the quality of life for many.
The beginning of the 20th century, average global life expectancy was below 40 years. Today, 70. 75% of the global population lived in extreme poverty. Today, less than 10%.
It took humanity 300,000 years to reach a population of 1 billion at the start of the 19th century. It took just over a century more to double this figure, and less than 50 years to triple it. And since the 1950s, we have been adding nearly 1 billion people every decade.
This is what we can call the great rise of humanity. And one can argue that there's never been a better time to be human.
But our meteoric rise to power has come at a cost.
The great rise of humanity was hiding a dark secret. Something that inadvertently or conveniently has been ignored until now. The great decline of nature.
Over the last 70 years, our exponential demographic growth and technological progress have led to a feverish overconsumption of every natural resource available to us. This period marks the Great Acceleration.
We have thought that the planet is a very resilient, robust system, and there's more and more signs that that has been a too optimistic assumption.
As our economies grew, so did the destruction of habitats. The pace at which we now consume the planet's resources is unsustainable, and nature is bearing the brunt.
IUCN Red List is a barometer of life. We can tell the world what is the state of a species. And unfortunately, we are losing a species at a rate that we have never seen before.
We can see the numbers, right? 73% decline in wildlife populations. We're reaching negative tipping points.
If you put together the biomass of all the mammals of the world, 96% is made of us humans and the animals we eat.
We have cut down half the trees, killed half of the coral reefs, and drained 80% of wetlands. More than 90% of commercial fish stocks are now overexploited or fully fished. We have altered more than 2/3 of the planet. And our assault on nature shows no signs of slowing.
We are constantly using natural resources in a way which is just simply not sustainable.
And worse, we are also destroying the very ecosystems that can replenish these resources.
Every statistic is showing that biodiversity is in decline, it is in crisis, and if we don't do something about that, then we cannot rely on the other systems continuing to function as they do.
Does that worry you?
That should worry all of us.
There may never have been a better time for humanity, but our progress and consumption is pushing nature to the point of collapse. And yet, it's this degradation of nature that threatens the foundations of our prosperity and our future.
The great rise of humanity and the great decline of nature represent the two sides of today's development paradox. The economic model that helped humanity to develop so spectacularly has been based on a massive destruction and overexploitation of the very natural resources and services that support it.
Nature provides many benefits to society at many layers, but nature doesn't charge anything for this. When did a bee ever send you an invoice for pollination services? The value of ecosystem services and the rate at which they are being lost is tremendous.
Armed with technology, we can clear cut a forest that's taken millions of years to come into existence. With a trawl in the ocean dragging the seafloor, we can unravel these closely knit systems, thinking it doesn't matter what we take. That nature will always be there. Now we know it's not true.
If we continue with business as usual, we risk crossing planetary tipping points that will destabilize our societies and our economies, and from which we can never recover.
I've always felt that interfering with the natural world is a bit like a giant game of Jenga. You take out a piece by piece, and eventually the whole thing will collapse.
Take the Amazon rainforest. If deforestation there continues, we will soon reach a point when the Amazon simply cannot recover. And the forest will continue to shrink through fire and drought, even if deforestation stops. If this happens, the repercussions will be felt around the world.
The loss of nature has lots of consequences for people. This is being seen now with the disasters, which are nothing natural. They're human-created, becoming more ferocious and more frequent. It's affecting every part of the world.
No, you know, we've, in a sense, totally underestimated the role of nature.
Nature gives us everything that matters. Everything that we all need to live and thrive. A stable climate, the air we breathe, fertile soils, and clean water. Healthy ecosystems regulate water flows, help prevent floods, fires, and droughts, and protect our coastal developments from powerful storms. And nature is our greatest ally in the fight against climate change.
Natural ecosystems on land and in the ocean have captured and neutralized more than half of the CO2 that we have emitted into the atmosphere.
Without nature to offset the damage we're causing, vast swathes of the planet would already be unlivable. This is the great threat we are facing, and we're already seeing increased poverty, hunger, and forced migration as a result of our disregard for nature.
All the science we have today shows that we are in danger, but we have not yet lost it. The window is still open to turn back. So far, what we've learned is that nature is remarkably strong and able to rise after long periods of stress.
It is this very knowledge that marks a critical turning point for our species. For whilst we are in the midst of the greatest threat humanity has ever faced, we are also experiencing a great awakening.
Today, we know we are the most environmentally aware generation of all times. More and more people understand that halting and reversing nature loss is key to our economy, our society, our health and well-being. In this great awakening lies hope and the seed of change.
We are now able to recognize the existential threat we're facing from nature loss.
Earth observation not only observes decline in nature, but effectively guides us towards nature-positive action.
This is vital because our security and prosperity depend entirely on nature.
We all depend on nature, and 100% of the GDP depends on it, in the same way as 100% of the human race depends on nature.
Yet despite this, we tend to only value nature when it's dead.
A tree becomes valuable when you cut it down and it turns into furniture. A fish acquires value when it's caught and served in your dish. Not when the tree is alive on the forest, producing oxygen, or the fish is part of the ocean ecosystem and keep it healthy.
When we don't value nature for what it really provides for us, we don't take into account the true costs that will be incurred when we lose nature.
Soil is a good example. We are extracting so much of the nutrients from the soil without giving it back. That is going to hit us very soon through prices in agricultural produce, disrupting value chains, but also entire economies.
We have to find a way to put the natural capital or nature on the companies and maybe countries' balance sheet so that each of the economic decision making is based on the real value, monetary value of natural capital.
Businesses have typically been part of the problem, endlessly taking from nature with impunity. But increasingly, companies within the private sector are recognizing the risks that nature loss poses to their business.
We cannot continue to grow, consume, and not expect any consequences.
This short-termism is very bad for business, for societies, for people.
Known as externalities, a company's impacts on nature and ultimately on society and businesses themselves are economically invisible. And so, they're exploited as if they'll be available forever.
This represents significant risks for companies to not fully understand how they both impact and depend on nature.
Negative externalities need to be managed, need to be measured and reduced. Why? Because today's externalities are tomorrow's risks, and tomorrow's risks are day after tomorrow's portfolio losses.
At the core of this needs to be a recognition that the resilience of a business depends on the resilience of nature. Those two things are inseparable.
Today, businesses are beginning to recognize that embracing nature-positive practices can not only mitigate risks, but also create long-term value for society, for the planet, and for their bottom lines. Valuing nature is not just important for economic reasons. It is also key to building a fairer and safer world.
Nature Positive is a vehicle for the economy for stable societies, for human health.
The only way we can build a people-positive future is to secure a nature-positive one.
It'll be hard to deliver equity for people if we don't have better ecosystems. It'll be hard to develop better ecosystems of nature without equity for people as well.
It's about understanding the responsibility that we have and keeping a planet that is hospitable for children and for future generations.
If we don't act now, we are basically delaying the cost of inaction into the future. Sadly, it's not a long-term future. It will be here before we know it.
We stand before what is perhaps the greatest choice ever faced in the history of our species.
We can continue with business as usual, continue to destroy nature, push Earth systems towards collapse, and put the future of humanity at risk. Or we can transition our societies, our economies, and our future to a nature and people-positive path.
In a way, it's actually quite simple. We simply have to implement the global, legally binding policy agreements that we have already signed on to.
The mission of the Global Biodiversity Framework to halt and reverse nature loss has been hailed as an historic moment, a major win for our planet and all of humanity.
Biodiversity loss or nature loss is not just an environmental issue. It is an economic issue, it is a financial issue, it's a developmental issue, it is a health issue.
Now, with a global biodiversity plan and a shared vision for 2050, the world has chosen a path toward a nature-positive and people-positive future. So how do we get there?
If we want to continue to create the prosperity humanity needs, we need to be able to use nature in a way that is sustainable. The best way to do this is to actually start to measure it.
Corporations and economies can only transform the way they operate when they're able to measure how they impact nature and how they depend upon nature in order to thrive. And they will only be held accountable when they disclose these impacts and dependencies.
Science-based targets for nature equip companies to set measurable, time-bound, quantifiable objectives that enable them to do their part for a nature-positive future.
But we can't just rely on businesses to voluntarily follow this path.
There is a tendency for us to just allow voluntary reporting, but that will never work. Because all that will happen is those which are most responsible will report and those who are not will not. And it's no coincidence that the ones that are the least responsible are some of those who have the largest footprints.
To achieve real change within the private sector, we need incentives and regulation. Regulation helps level the playing field to ensure all businesses across all sectors measure and report their impacts on nature and explain how they will address them.
That's why we need the regulatory environment, the political environment, and the investor environment to help provide the incentives that will drive action in the right direction instead of the wrong direction.
Every year, an estimated $2.6 trillion of public subsidies are given to support practices that damage the natural world. Think what we could achieve if these subsidies were redirected towards practices that protect and restore nature.
We can unlock $10.1 trillion of business opportunities by 2030 if we move towards a nature-positive pathway.
We're seeing really exciting new products and services, new business models being created by working with nature rather than treating nature as an externality.
The opportunity for those that understand their relationship with nature is massive, and it's those companies, those financial institutions, those governments that are going to succeed in the future.
Yet, despite growing momentum to embrace a nature-positive future, significant challenges remain.
Listen, transition is messy. And many people, instead of feeling engaged, they feel like totally overwhelmed. They don't know how to act. They don't know what to ask.
And then it becomes, how much of your lifestyle are you willing to give up to solve this problem? Well, I can tell you, that's completely the wrong mindset. Here it is, we will all lose if we continue the business usual pathway. That we know with 100% certainty.
We must change the narrative. We need to move away from a worldview that sees protecting nature as a burden.
I think we need to recognize that the biggest barrier to achieving a nature-positive goal is ourselves at the moment.
We will not be able to reach a nature-positive approach if we don't understand that nature itself has rights, if we continue viewing nature as a resource and not as a source of life.
We need to see the recovery of nature as an investment in a stronger, more resilient economy and a more equitable world.
More than ever before, we understand the problem and we know the solutions. First, protect more of the nature left on the planet. Second, restore what we can. Third, transition key economic sectors from nature negative to nature positive practices. And fourth, redirect public subsidies and private investment to support these nature positive transitions.
If we continue to scale our actions in protecting, restoring, and investing in nature, then not only will nature have the opportunity to thrive, but the benefits to our economies and societies will grow.
I'll tell you an amazing story I just heard. So I was recently in South Africa. And there was a jobs program set up by the government to put young people into work. And we've been using that program to train people how to restore watersheds. The money, as it inevitably does, eventually ran out. We went back 6 months later, and what was stunning to me is that the village has continued to do the work for free because they're getting more water. The community kept doing the activity because they were seeing the benefit. That's the nature-positive economy.
If we work together, we can restore nature to levels that no one alive today has ever known, resulting in a safe, more equitable, and more prosperous world. Becoming nature positive is therefore not just an aspiration, it's a responsibility. And perhaps the most inspiring and exciting project any human generation has embarked upon.
It's not a sacrifice. It's not a big cost. It's actually a pathway towards a more modern, prosperous, equitable, secure, and healthier future.
We have created these systems, the financial system, the economic system, the political system, and that means that we can change them.
I want to tell everybody out there that you are a part of the solution towards a nature-positive future.
I have 4 grandsons. I have 1 great-grandson. I know that what we do or fail to do right now will have a magnified impact on their future and all the rest of life on Earth.
Nature positive is not a vision, it's a must. It's something that we have to do.
We are the ones who hold the pen and can write the next chapter in the history of humanity. We can be the heroes and embrace a nature-positive future, or we can be remembered as a failing generation that let nature collapse and destroyed our own future.
We must all be agents of change, embracing a nature-positive mindset in all that we do. Only then can we create a safer and better future. A nature-positive future for people now, for generations to come, and for all life on this planet.
The choice is ours. The choice is clear.
Hello, everybody. There we go. Stay with us. Just while we bring up the stools, have a think about your own reflections on the film. As we heard the brilliant voice of Gillian Burke, the voiceover narrator of Becoming Nature Positive, saying, nature is our greatest ally in the fight against climate change. And I always think these weeks really should be Nature and Climate Week, as Rio de Janeiro recently instated. Hope you enjoyed it, although enjoy, as Marco always points out, is perhaps not the right word to use. But let's get into some reflections on that. So I'm going to now invite our panel to join me here on the stage. That's me. And here they are. So Marco Lambertini, Jane Madgwick, and Thomas Viegas, please come up to join me. Marco Lambertini is convener of the Nature Positive Initiative, formerly Director General of WWF International and CEO of BirdLife International. Marco is also lead author and commissioning editor of the book that I mentioned, Becoming Nature Positive, Transitioning to a Safe and Just Future, and also the executive director of this film that you've just seen. Jane Madgwick is chair-elect of Tree Aid. Jane, you're also expert and nominator for the brilliant Earthshot Prize and a member of the steering group of the Planetary Health Alliance. And you were formerly, for nearly 20 years, CEO of Wetlands International and a renowned international nature and water expert and advisor. And as those who are sharp-eyed will have noticed, you're also in the film. And third, we have Thomas Viegas also joining us, who's group lead for nature of Aviva, formerly of the Bank of England, HM Treasury, and TNFD. And Thomas is also co-chair of the UNEP Financial Initiative Principles for Sustainable Insurance Working Group for Nature. And Thomas brings a deep expertise in environmental economics, finance, and policymaking. Thanks for joining me up here. First of all, I would love to just get a little bit of a sense from all of you. We've just watched the film afresh. Some of us are more familiar with it than others. So perhaps I will start with you, Marco. Some first reflections from you seeing this film again.
Well, I think I already spoke enough in the film. The only thing to say is that the film is trying to balance a little bit the stark reality of today. We're living truly extraordinary times, times of big consequences, and times of big opportunities. And that's the paradox, the contradiction, the confusion, I think, of our time, where the old is still hanging on, is still receiving the support that it received of particularly the last 50, 70 years, where the whole economic system is supporting an exploitative approach to nature, over-exploitative approach to nature, unsustainable. And the new is emerging, but is not yet persuasive enough to shift the system in that direction decisively and at scale and pace. So this is what the film tries to, I think, convey as the main message. This is our great choice moment, the moment of changing again our system into one that leads to more sustainable growth, to more and safer future, to a better and safer future. And as we've done it during our history of a species, a civilization for so many times, now is the time to change again. And that is, depending on your personal feeling, for nature as a whole, the rights of nature, the intrinsic value of nature, I feel strongly about that, but also it's for ourselves. And that's a new dimension that we never really understood fully, the dependencies on nature. Most of the society in the world have been looking at nature as provider of services, as infinitely resilient, infinite in the way they could provide those services and resources. And now we know, as Sylvia said in the film, that's not true.
Exactly. No, thanks, Marco. Jane, what would some initial reactions from you be?
Yeah, the film starts with a big punch to the stomach on all the things we've done that have degraded our home, the nature that supports human livelihoods. And it asks the question, is it really possible? Can we put nature back in a way that gives us a resilient future? And I think it answers that in two ways. It's saying, well, yes, it's possible, but also it's not a choice. We talk about a choice, but there isn't another choice, so we must. And I think my reflection on the film this time around is that probably, like myself, the other people interviewed and speaking on this film know quite a lot about the pathways and really what's needed to get us to that safe and just future. And I think a huge part of the job is to explain this in many different ways, make it, bring it closer to the values and the culture of many more people in the world. I think it's still something that only a few really understand, and it feels quite daunting, I can imagine, for those who are not really in this business of restoring nature. So for me, it gives us a massive challenge. And don't forget, it's only 4 years to 2030, which is where we need to bend the curve. So acceleration is what I really feel is a pressure at the challenge we have to live up to.
Is the urgent need. Yeah, thanks, Jane. And Thomas, now coming to you. I think, is it fair to say, am I right in saying this was the first time you've seen the film, actually, maybe like many in our audience today? So please do share some fresh reflections.
Yeah, no, thank you. Well, I purposely tried not to watch it, and not even a trailer, to help. And it was brilliant narrated, the imagery as well, and I think the narrative, which we'll talk about. I think my initial reactions are two things. One that came to mind was, maybe left field, was Dickens and A Tale of Two Cities, and how more true could it be that we've lived in the best of times and the worst of times? And I think that is so synonymous with what was shown. I think a second and deeper point, which really came across, I think, through the drivers of why we've seen that, why we've lived through that, is how we've, as a world, over that period, seen value and our values, and how they've all informed each other. So for over that period of the Great Acceleration, as Marco mentioned, from 1950, values around growth, needing more, reducing poverty, improving access to healthcare, needing more to do that, all bled into our value about GDP, about some of those statistics Marco talked about. Where we now are, I think, which was really articulated, is arguably a very different world in terms of need for security, resilience, and finite resource. And that then fundamentally starts to shape our appreciation and our description of what value is, and the translation. And I think, which was also articulated, that embodying of our values and value from multiple decades is really ingrained in the institutions. I think it touched on that. We touched on the finance system, the economic system. I don't think it touched on the legal system, which probably maybe that's a little bit more, but really, unpicking everything, it really is embedded in there. So I think that point about changing is there is multiple layers of change to embed the values that we now hold today into the system and the layers. And I think that really came across to me as well.
Super interesting. Thanks for sharing. And allow me just to say, you mentioned the brilliant imagery. I should give a hat tip to the wonderful team at Open Planet Studios who we worked with to produce this film. And really, they've clearly done a fantastic job. And I've seen the film a good number of times, and I still find it very moving and powerful. Please do have a think if you have some reflections you'd like to share in just a moment. But Marco, I want to come back to you for now and just ask you, you've been working on these issues for a long time. We're looking towards 2030, but also beyond. Why this film and why now? And do you see it as one point on a journey?
Well, why now? And it's not just this film, but all this conversation about nature, climate, development, equity, is because we're facing a very new reality. which is something that as a species we never experienced before, which is the arrival, the approaching of tipping points in key Earth systems that are fundamental to the livability of the planet. Perhaps not for all species. Many species will manage to adapt, but surely, despite our human arrogance, we will be one of the most affected species by destabilization of climate, by the collapse of ecosystemic services and all the rest. So now, because the sense of urgency needs to be embraced now, and science is telling us that we've got to move faster than we're moving today on transforming our systems, human systems, from the mindset, in the way we look at ourselves, we see ourselves in nature, in the way we interact with nature, in the way we see and value nature, to our systems, economic system, financial system, the ones that are triggering our society and our development. That's why it's important to push this conversation to the front now, because time is absolutely of essence, and this shouldn't be lived and perceived as a panicky, message. On the contrary, I really think, and I wish I was younger, because this generation has the opportunity to do something historic, to do something so important for everybody that will follow, human and non-human, that I think everybody should feel almost privileged to be living at this moment.
Absolutely. It's a moment of opportunity, isn't it? And privileged and empowered to be able to do something. Related to that, Jane, I know we've talked about this before. I would love it if you could share a little bit of a sense of how is the transformation already happening at a global scale and also within communities from what you've seen in some of your work, and how can we, or how do we need to double down on accelerating the progress?
Yeah, so I also think it's a very exciting moment. We're about the same age, I think. So when we started in ecology work, I mean, there were no mobile phones, computers weren't regularly used, we did things differently. I mean, what I've seen, a lot of great developments in this field of ecology and conservation. Technology has been really helpful. I mean, it's really helped us connect what happens locally and the value of what happens locally and that traditional knowledge, for example, with cutting-edge science and global satellite images that help the local action be more precise and more targeted. So this whole local to global connectivity, this whole the planning for nature conservation and recovery, the understanding of how to give nature space to enable the natural systems to recover and restore. This has grown dramatically, exponentially in the time that we've been working. So, and there are lots more jobs in this field. I mean, it's really a whole industry. Putting back nature is something that you can get in good employment in all continents of the world. So I think this is super exciting. And I think I see evidence that transformation at a landscape or by a regional scale, it can happen rather quickly in a positive sense for nature and people alongside. People talk about it needing 20, 30 years. For sure that's accurate, but even in 3 to 5 years, you can see massive positive change. If it's based on good understanding of what's been going on, what's gone wrong with the environment, and if local people are in the driving seat of putting back nature, it's going to last for generations and generations. So I'm a believer that change can happen very quickly. I think the solutions are out there already, and you mentioned Earthshot. We celebrated yesterday 5 years of Earthshot activity, and really it's astounding the impact that has come from all over the world, from small beginnings to really changing systems, restoring massive landscapes, and sharing that knowledge and building a community of hope, science, and collaboration across different sectors. So I think you mentioned nature climate. There's a lot of nature in this climate forum and more, but also different sectors are engaging. The health sector is really getting behind nature recovery as the most important thing that needs to be done for the health of human populations in the future. So I think these are all very promising signs. These are all, wheels that are turning. And bringing that all together, we will get to where Marco has set the bar.
Definitely. No, it's all super inspiring and encouraging to see that progress happening. Thomas, just moving to you, you work in insurance, asset management. We'd love to hear a little bit from you, your perspective of how you see the financial system generally contributing to that transition and what needs to happen to help speed that up.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I think, the film touched on a little bit of what's going on, and I reaffirm kind of what was being said in the film here. There is a deep and widening spread of appreciation, really, of that underpinning of resilience that nature provides. And as a financial institution, as an investor, we invest in firms, companies, countries, all pose risks if there's disruption. As an insurer, one of a large insurer in the UK, if there's disruptions from the physical impacts of climate change and nature degradation, we actually as an insurer see it first among the financial sector because we're paying out claims if it's insured. And we have seen that already start to rise in the UK. So we're seeing it. We are doing work, a little bit that was alluded to in the film, about really understanding our interface across the dimensions. We're a quite diverse business model, and thereby we have a diverse interface. And then being able to prioritize, engage, measure, and then manage those dependencies and impacts. I think one of the other things, though, probably maybe I would arguably say unique to Aviva, and I just want to pick up on the point about connectivity, is we engage hugely with our customers and communities. We as an insurer, we're based in the UK, Ireland, and Canada, and a big part of why we do this, why I have my job, why Aviva does it, is really it's a mandate from the customers that they want to have good financial security and what we can offer them, but they also want us to do more. And I do think there's this point which was picked up about engaging, and I think this awareness at an early age about education. You don't protect what you don't understand. I'm just a guy from East London. I grew up not far from here. I can tell you I didn't really see much of green. I saw a lot of urban development. So I think if you don't see, and if you're not educated early, you won't protect. And I think that element about education, getting nature back into our cities, we know over that time period we've become really urbanized and actually disconnected. And there's been a lot of evidence about how that's actually impacted mental health and well-being of people. I think these are these elements that often go under the radar, but I think if we don't connect, and this is where I have a little bit of there's the positives of AI. I'm really concerned as a young father of two that if the algorithms go wrong, that my children don't need to be, nature won't be pushed to them. And so I do think we need to think a little bit about connectivity with nature and how do we manage that when arguably it's arguably easier but also harder to ever connect with nature right now for many people.
Definitely. There's so much in there that we could talk about for the whole day, I think, but time is running on. I'd love to, just in case, does anyone have a burning question from our audience? I believe we have a roving mic that was just coming up. I see that lady there, yeah.
Thank you. Dee Davison from What Sustainability. I loved the film. Honestly, I feel like you have to be a stone not to be moved by that in some way. And so my question is, how are you distributing it? Because I feel like in London Climate Week, a lot of the people that come to these events are people who care or work for companies who care. And actually, we need to be getting in front of people in the FTSE 100s, the investor forums, and people who can actually mobilise like big shifts in financing and economies to kind of make a change here. So, how are you distributing?
Thank you for your comment and also the question. I can answer quickly, and then maybe Marco, I'll hand to you. So we would love everybody's help to spread the word. In just a moment, I'm going to quickly show a QR code because we have a screening toolkit, actually. So we're doing our best to get the film in this kind of event and others. But any organization is very welcome to host its own screening, either in-house or at an external event, etc. But from the 15th of July, also it's going to be streaming on YouTube and also the Water Bear Impact platform. So we're doing our best to get it out there, but please do help. Marco, anything to add? And perhaps you would like to just do your temperature check of the audience.
Yes, we do this every screening, which is the most nerve-breaking moment of my agenda. But before that, just to add, I'm glad you reacted like you did, but also to stress that we produced a film within the 30 minutes exactly to allow this film to be embedded in events, in gatherings. So there are companies organizing their annual sustainability conversations, using the film to provoke reflections and to trigger conversations within the company, within the organization. So it's open to everybody, and that's why we kept it to within 30 minutes, to be more easily used as a tool to converse, to reflect, to discuss. The temperature check that we normally do is this. Now, here is quite dark, and it looks like actually we are playing video games with this, but it's a bit of a strange image from here. But is to ask you a question, to ask you to raise your hand. First of all, the question is the film too negative, too pessimistic, puts you off? Is the film, could the film be more punchy, pushing on the problem and the issues? Or is the film striking the right balance? So, if you think the film is too negative, too pessimistic, raise your hand. Honestly, because we need that feedback. Yeah, don't hesitate. Thank you so much. All right. If you feel that the film could have been more punchy and more provocative, raise your hand. Thank you. If you think the film is more or less, nothing is perfect, more or less striking the right balance between urgency, punch, and hope and action, raise your hand. Thank you very much. That's super helpful. We're getting this feedback for us is extremely important. Thank you.
Super helpful. Thanks, everybody. I'm aware that we're pretty much at time, but I would just like to offer very quickly, or ask rather, our brilliant panel to, if you have in one sentence, the closing thought that you would love our audience to take away with them, please do share. And then we have just a couple of slides to close with some closing information as well. But I'll come to you first, if I may, Thomas, and then work back along.
Well, I think a lot's been said. I was probably going to say, well, scan the QR code and share, make it go viral, beat the algorithm, and get people to watch it, I guess.
Jane?
If the film touched you and you care, then and you're not involved in this big restoration, then please get involved and share with others. You don't need to be any kind of expert to make a difference for nature.
Indeed.
Avoid over-optimism, avoid pessimism, because we need engagement and action. And join the community if you're an organization, a company, a group. Join what Gemma is going to present in a minute, and join the community. And thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks, Marco. Exactly. Active, engaged optimism that's linked to realism. That's what we need. So just very, very briefly, we have here first the QR code of the book, Becoming Nature Positive. You can also see it on our banner. And actually, we do have a small number of print copies of the book with us. So if you're really, really keen to get one of those, come and see us afterwards. You could even get it signed. So we have a handful of those. But otherwise, it's free for anybody to read through our open access license online. This is the QR code for the film itself. So I mentioned our screening toolkit. You can also find it online at naturepositive.org/film. Lots of really, really good resources there, as well as the trailer and other things. Please do, as others have said, help us spread the word. And then finally, this one, let me get out of the way. This is for the Nature Positive Forum, which Marco just mentioned. It's our community of now, I think, more than 500 organizations across businesses and others who support the Nature Positive goal and are keen to be in the loop and aligned with our progress to make it happen. So please do check that out and feel welcome to join. And thank you very much again.
It's on the website as well.
And it's also on the website, indeed. Do check that out. Thank you very much.